So if you've been following hi-fi for a while, you know that a couple of years ago there wasn't really a high-end soundbar category. Soundbars have been around for ages, but for the most part they just made your TV a bit louder, and if you actually cared about sound quality, there weren't that many serious options. However, over the past few years that has changed. Brands like Devialet and Sennheiser have pushed things forward and are pretty much the founding members of this high-end soundbar category. And now DALI, who have been building speakers for over 40 years, are stepping into the space as well. In this video, we'll be taking a look at their speaker, see what it can actually do, find out whether it deserves to be called a high-end wireless sound system, and of course the big one, whether it can actually replace a full hi-fi system. So this is the new DALI Vega. It's a £2,599 wireless sound system, and the fact that they're calling it a sound system rather than just a speaker tells you it's probably not that simple. But before we get into the various tech in this thing, and trust me, there's a lot, let's first have a look at the design. The first thing you'll notice is the real wood veneer covering the top of the speaker alongside the controls. It's something you don't commonly see on wireless speakers, and in a way, it's a nice reminder that DALI have got a tradition in building loudspeakers. Across the entire front and back, there's this really nice woven fabric. It gives it more of a furniture grade feel rather than a high-tech gadget, if that makes sense. Now our demo unit is in a dark oak finish, but you've actually got the choice of two colors, a dark oak and a natural oak. So you get some standard options if you're trying to match it with your current setup or living room space. Onto the rest of it, right in the center there's an aerospace grade ball bearing volume knob, which you definitely can't miss. The detail on this is really nice with sundial type lines on the top and a nice smooth texture around the sides for easy adjusting. Off to the right of the dial there's an OLED display, and here's the clever bit. It actually rotates depending on how you position the speaker, which kind of gives away what the speaker is trying to do. We'll touch more on this later. On the left side, you've got 5 customizable preset buttons, which you can assign to a radio station, a playlist, or a streaming service. You can even map one of them straight to an input, so it's one tap away from the TV or a turntable. Now let's get into what the speaker can actually do. This isn't a traditional soundbar in the usual sense. Yes, you can mount it on the wall under your TV, but you're not limited to just that. You can also place it on a table stand or even use it in completely different rooms as a standalone speaker. And actually DALI are pretty firm on this one themselves. Even with HDMI on board, they're keen to point out that this is a wireless sound system, not a soundbar. No Dolby Atmos here, no upfiring drivers trying to fake a cinema effect. So if you were wondering earlier whether to call it a soundbar or a high-end wireless speaker, well, straight from DALI, that's your answer. It's a speaker, not a soundbar. And here's the interesting part that really shows what it's trying to be. Most soundbar style speakers only really make sense mounted under a TV, but the Vega can be wall mounted either horizontally or vertically, so it's not tied to sitting under a screen at all. That means if you don't even have a TV in your room and just want great sound, or maybe you don't even have the floor space for a full pair of stereo speakers, you can just hang it on a wall like a piece of art and use it as a standalone hi-fi speaker. If you like how this speaker sounds in your room and want the same experience elsewhere, the good news is you can add more of them in other rooms. It runs on the BlueOS streaming platform, which uses a very simple and intuitive app which fully supports multi-room audio. What that means is you can connect multiple BlueOS devices into one system. So for example, if you already have a Blue Sound streamer or a streaming amplifier in another room, it will all show up in the same app, and from there you can control everything in one place and easily play music across your entire home. In terms of streaming services, you get the usual suspects. That includes Spotify, Tidal, Qobuz, AirPlay 2, Bluetooth with aptX, and TuneIn Radio. So whatever you're already using, you're pretty much covered. But it's not just about wireless either. DALI hasn't ignored physical connections, so you also get HDMI ARC, analog RCA, optical input, and USB audio. So whether it's your TV, older hi-fi gear, or just a local source, it's very easy to plug everything in and get it working. Now onto the really cool modern feature I briefly mentioned earlier. This speaker can be rotated 90 degrees. So when you do this, the adaptive orientation adjustment turns on. Depending on how and where you place the Vega, the speaker will automatically retune itself, and unlike some other well-known audio brands, there's no manual calibration. The other clever feature they've added is adaptive stereo enhancement. This is DALI's own patent-pending tech, which does real-time analysis of the audio signal and creates a wide stereo soundstage. By real-time, I mean it's not just a fixed setting, it constantly reacts to what's actually playing through it. So normally, to get a proper stereo out of wireless speakers, you'd need a second speaker sat across the room. But DALI are claiming that they can fake, or rather recreate, the width just from a single box. And the nice thing is that it's a feature that can be switched on and off depending on your setup and personal taste. Next, let's talk about what this speaker actually packs. In this one cabinet, DALI have included 10 drivers in total. First up, 4 tweeters that have the classic DALI in-house soft dome design, but these ones use an enlarged rear chamber, which basically is an engineering trick to push the tweeter's own resonant frequency further out of the way so it doesn't color the sound. Then for the mid-bass, there are 4 4.5-inch drivers using paper and wood fiber cones, which is the same cone material DALI use in their passive speakers. They have arranged these mid-bass drivers back to back, so they physically cancel out each other's vibrations throughout the cabinet, and that matters because in a single box speaker like this, the cabinet itself can become part of the sound in the wrong way. You can get resonance and boxiness creeping in. Rounding things off, you've got 2 passive radiators handling the low end, and like many features packed in the Vega, these aren't just simple add-ons either. There are rectangular panels positioned on either end of the cabinet, finished in anodized aluminium to match the rest of the speaker. Each one suspended using an external rubber roll surround with a couple of internal fabric spider suspensions doing the work inside, which basically means they move in a really controlled way rather than just flapping about. DALI actually call the whole enclosure design a tuned mass setup. It's a fancy way of saying every part of the cabinet's being tuned to work together rather than the radiators just being bolt on as an afterthought. And this setup is a big part of how this speaker is able to get down to 32 Hz without needing a separate subwoofer. All of this is powered by 400 watts split across 8 individual amplifier channels. So instead of one crossover splitting a shared signal between drivers passively, each driver group gets its own dedicated amp channel, and DALI's own DSP is doing the crossover work actively at 2.4 kHz. That's the kind of setup you normally only see in proper separate systems, not something crammed into a lifestyle speaker like this. We've had the Vega set up in our demo room, and the first thing that struck us is just how wide the soundstage is. It's fun and engaging to listen to, with plenty of low-end impact and a really nice definition running through the mids and highs. In fact, one of our team members summed it up pretty well. If you like your bass, this speaker is for you. We also made a point of testing it with adaptive stereo enhancement switched on and off. We also ran it in a couple of different orientations, sitting on a surface and wall mounted vertically to see whether the adaptive orientation adjustment actually holds up in practice. Tonally, it does. The balance stayed consistent either way. In our listening space, we did notice the vertical placement brought the soundstage a touch narrower and further back compared to horizontal, though that's likely down to the specific room and positioning rather than the tech itself. It's a good indication that this feature is doing its job on tone, whatever orientation you land on. You can get everything we just talked about in the DALI Vega for £2,599. And yeah, on its own, that sounds like a lot for a speaker. But for context, similar all-in-one systems like the Ruach Audio R410 or Cambridge Audio Evo 1 both sit around £1,299. So the Vega is roughly double the price of its closest rivals. I would say it's closer to the Focal Muso Heckler, which comes in at nearly £3,000. But here's the thing, after everything we've just gone through, that price tag starts to make a lot more sense. This isn't really competing with a £400 Bluetooth speaker, and it was never really trying to. And it's also worth pointing out that neither the Ruach nor the Cambridge Audio are actually designed to go on a wall. They're built as tabletop or shelf units, so if you're tight on space, you're still finding somewhere to put a fairly large box. The Vega's wall mounting in either portrait or landscape generally isn't something that you'll find on its closest rivals, and for anyone dealing with a smaller room or just wanting cables and clutter properly out of the way, that's not a small thing. So go back to that question I asked at the start. Can this actually replace an entire hi-fi separate system? Well, think about what you normally need to put together to sound like this. A decent amp, a pair of proper stereo speakers, a streamer to actually get music onto it, and maybe cables and stands on top of that. Individually, those add up fast, and that's before you've dealt with the actual hassle of setting it all up and finding somewhere to put it all. So is it cheap? No, but is it expensive for what it's actually replacing? Honestly, not really. That's the value DALI is offering here, a premium price, but the simplicity of one box doing the job of an entire system. If this has convinced you, the Vega is available in both finishes on our website at premiumsound.co.uk, but honestly, a speaker like this one I'd actually recommend hearing before you buy. So if you are London based, you should definitely pop into our store and book some time with it in our listening room. I think we can all agree that there's a real difference between reading specs off a page and actually standing in front of the thing. As always, links to booking a demo and everything else that we've mentioned in this video will be in the description down below. If you've still got questions after this, our team is always happy to talk through the details. They're very knowledgeable on all the products we carry and are there to help you land on the right setup for your space. So that's the DALI Vega. Thanks for sticking till the end. If you found this useful, give this video a like. We're putting out videos like this every week covering some of the best hi-fi gear around, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel and enable notifications so you don't miss the next one. Also, let us know in the comments, do you think this actually earns its place as a separate replacement? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. And if you're weighing up other options, we've got a whole playlist of speaker overviews you can check out right here. Until next time, happy listening.